A tough 5-7 season, plagued by an injury to his star quarterback, Cam Newton. So will we see him on the sideline next year? Rivera met with the media this morning.
My intent is to coach again. You know, I love coaching, and not just coaching because it's about winning football games, but coaching because you have an opportunity to impact young men and people, and that's what I want to do. I want to be able to coach people and impact people and win football games and hopefully win a Super Bowl. You know, somebody want to ask me my biggest regret? My biggest regret is not winning the Super Bowl. I know I stood up in front when I first got the job and told people I was going to win a Super Bowl, and that's my biggest regret as the head coach of this football team, is that we didn't win it.
I don't think there's much doubt he will be coaching against next season. Where do you think Ron Rivera will land, Nick?
Look, I think Ron Rivera is an excellent coach. I think there's a half dozen coaches in the league that separated themselves from everyone. Belichick, Harbaugh, Tomlin, Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Pete Carroll. To me, those are the best 6 coaches in football. Then there's a group of guys like Sean McDermott, Frank Reich, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Mike Vrabel, I think, is ascended into that. And I would have included Ron Rivera in that group of that next tier of very good NFL coaches, far better than average. So, yeah, any team that fires their coach this offseason would be lucky to get a coach as good as Ron Rivera. But because he's a experienced coach, you know he's not going to be a disaster, and you know his attention to detail. He embraces the analytics well before it was popular to do so. They called him Riverboat Ron, but it was because he knew the numbers. I would say a team that has a lot of talent, that knows who their quarterback's going to be, they don't have to find or mold a new one, that has an underachieving defense, and that has not played up to its ability this year, is where he should go. And to me, Brian, 2 teams fit that description, 2 teams that I expect to have coaching openings, the Dallas Cowboys, who we've talked about, and the Cleveland Browns, who you've talked about. To me, both of those owners, Jimmy Haslam and Jerry Jones, should be on the phone to Ron Rivera's agent today and be like, listen, don't tell anyone, but we're moving on from our coach. Jerry basically told the whole world they were moving on from their coach yesterday. And I think Freddie Kitchens, if he had any hope, it was the loss this weekend and the whole T-shirt nonsense. Gate. And so I think those are the 2 teams that make the perfect sense for Ron Rivera, because he is exactly what those types of teams, those 2 teams specifically, need.
You're right. Every team will want a coach like this. There's been the best coach in franchise history in Carolina. That was a model of consistency, great culture, and discipline. And I think for Ron, you're right. What type of team do you want to go to? Do you want to go to a team like the Giants, where you're saying you got a young quarterback, a young team that you're going to have to build all over?
A blank slate almost.
I doubt that. I think that when you say Cleveland Browns, they have talent across the board. They have talent on offense. They have talent on defense. They just need someone to galvanize them and to bring them together. And when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, it's almost the same thing. Bring some discipline. Bring a guy in that can say, listen, this is the way we're going to march every single day until we win. And I think Ron Rivera is the same type of guy that can do all those things. He comes in and has instant credibility in the locker room. Both of those teams need that.
So, Jenna, I look around the league, and again, only 2 coaches have been fired, Ron Rivera and Jay Gruden, weeks ago in Washington. But I think it's fair to assume that the Browns are going to have a new head coach. The Cowboys, I think the Giants are, and Dave Gettleman obviously has a relationship with the Rivera. Atlanta Falcons, I'd be shocked if Dan Quinn gets brought back. Jacksonville Jaguars, I also think, probably going to be looking for a new coach. Detroit Lions might with Matt Patricia. The Falcons are another team that fits this mold. Quarterback's taken care of, underachieving defense, in theory thinks they can win right now. A team like, I would strongly recommend the Cowboys or the Browns do not go with the hotshot young either offensive coordinator or college guy Lincoln Riley, because if you are in a Super Bowl mode, you want a guy that you know isn't going to be a disaster. It's why I didn't think the Packers should have hired Matt LaFleur. Now, that seems to be working out. But you swing on a Matt LaFleur, and sometimes you end up with a guy, Freddie Kitchens. Sometimes you end up with a guy who, okay, now we have to restart this thing all over again. You know that's not going to be the case with Ron Rivera.
But Nick, I know that you really like this idea of Ron Rivera going to the Dallas Cowboys. With the Dallas Cowboys, there comes this this bit of an asterisk, which is, yes, I could be the head coach, but I'm the head coach sort of under the guise of, you know, Jerry Jones watching over me, Jerry Jones having the last word. Is that something, when you talk about where he wants to go, do you think a guy like Ron Rivera would want to sign up for that situation?
You know, initially I thought he wouldn't, but I think as you think about it more, he doesn't want to be the GM. He just wants to coach football. And I think if Jerry sees a coach that just wants to win football games, also a guy that's not coming from college, that has this type of pedigree, he won't meddle as much. I don't think that Jerry Jones says those things that he said the last 2 weeks if Ron Rivera was a coach right now. The other thing, and you mentioned it earlier, who is the guy that's going to get the most out of their team? Ron Rivera got the most out of that team down there in Carolina, especially with a hurt quarterback. Who is the guy that can get the most out of the Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns, who have been underachieving for a long time? Ron Rivera is that guy.
And to your point about Jerry, the downside to coaching the Cowboys is you are not going to be the singular voice. That there is going to not only be a voice alongside you, but a voice above you.
Yep.
That, especially if things are going wrong, can be a real headache. And even if things are going well, can add to your daily media requirement of things you're going to have to answer to. I understand that. The upside of coaching the Cowboys is the following. They will spend as much money as they are allowed to. They have the best facilities in the entire sport. If you like the spotlight, some guys do, some guys don't, you are going to be on center stage.